Good evening, everyone, and welcome to what we have now called Live with Noelle and Carlos. Good to see you, Noelle.
Nice to see you, Carlos.
So we've got a packed program for tonight. We're going to definitely be talking about some topics here, and we're going to talk about our first topic, Dr. Gabriel, which is going to really be about you because you're the professional on this one.
Thank you so much, Carlos. I've really enjoyed how we've evolved this program for so many members of our audience. We really wanted to first just inform our stakeholders, and then we started talking about so many different things, updates with schools and the pandemic and everything. And so this is just a topic that has come up over and over again with regards to children, their mental health, their well-being, and what can we do to help them in this process. So let me just kind of take you on a personal journey that I've had with regards to this, because I feel like I've had a front seat view. Right when I graduated from our residency program at Children's Hospital the King's Daughters, I started working in the emergency department. And one of the things that we would see when I first started with regards to mental health is we might see a teenager with an ingestion here and there, mostly Tylenol, maybe some other type of medication. And then over time, we started to see some teenagers using a variety of different medications. They would go to an event, throw some of their prescription medications into a bowl, and then kind of ingest it and talk about the feeling they had with that. So we started to see that. But then I noticed about 5, 6, 7 years ago that we really started to have a higher number of children coming in with self-harm, depression, anxiety, and they were really, really losing control of what they could do to help themselves. We started having more and more children that were staying overnight in the emergency room. And that's really when I think the community and the hospital realized that we have a crisis on our hands. And that was the initiation of why we started the mental health push to build the mental health hospital with the Children's Hospital, the King's Daughters. And so it's just been this evolution over time that we've seen a rising number of increase in mental health needs for our children. And the children have just gotten younger and younger and younger with what their needs are. Mostly, as I said before, they were mostly teenagers, 16 and up. But now we see young ones, 6, 7, 8, that really have a lot of things going on in their lives. And what this pandemic has done is it's really brought about some of the things all together that can cause a real life-changing experience for these children. And we're witnessing this firsthand, both as school board members, me as a healthcare professional, and you, Carlos, as a director with the program, the STOP program that you're with. And so what I wanted to do was kind of focus on a couple of different topics tonight and give our parents, teachers, anybody who's listening some tips on what they can do to kind of come out of this if they are experiencing any concerns about mental health and well-being. So I want to first talk about mental health in the aspect of, if you are a parent or if you are a teacher or a staff member or a community member and you see a child who has had a change in their attitude or behavior and they really don't want to speak with you, it's really imperative that you bring it up to their parent or guardian and have them see a healthcare professional. A lot of children don't know the words in order to express how they are feeling. What they often will do is say they have belly pain or a headache or they can't sleep at night. But what that's really telling us is there's something deeper that's going on. And as parents and guardians and important members of their lives, we have to be the ones to kind of read them and understand and kind of peel away at some of the things that are really bothering them, because they may not always volunteer that information to us. So I first wanted to say that if you do see this, please reach out to their healthcare professional, whether it's their pediatrician, their family medicine doctor, their school counselor. So let's dive into one of the most serious health conditions that all of us are really concerned about, and that is suicide. So, suicide is a word that a lot of children and adults are scared to say, but sometimes it's really important that we actually say the word to them because it gives them an opportunity to talk about it. So, sometimes when I see children in my office, when I do my exam, they're normally undressed. They have a gown on. Sometimes I'll see some markings on their hands, or they'll just be really down and depressed. And I'll ask them, have you ever thought about harming yourself, or has this thought crossed your mind? And then I try to leave it as an open-ended question for them. And then at the very end, I'll ask, have you ever thought about suicide? What does suicide mean to you? And they will come out and sometimes they'll start talking about it. And if they don't talk about it, then it just opens the door for me to have a more in-depth conversation with them. And as I mentioned before, sometimes there are things that masquerade as issues of depression and anxiety. And as I mentioned before, sometimes it's headache, sometimes it's belly pain, sometimes it's I can't sleep at night. And you will have ordered every test under the sun, x-rays, imaging, but you still can't pinpoint what's going on. And that's when you have to really start to consider, maybe there's something deeper there. And there's lots of tools now that pediatricians have and family medicine doctors, because family medicine doctors can see children too. There's lots of tools that we have. And a part of the training that I did a few weeks ago really outlined nicely some of the tools, screening tools that we can test for, not just to catch a mental illness or a mental health concern after we've done a long workup, but really to try to see what's going on at the beginning. Every child I know, within our practice at the age of 11, they get a personal health questionnaire, which goes over topics of sleep, attention, focus, whether or not they find joy in doing things. It does ask about self-harm, and it does ask, have you ever thought about what it would be like if you weren't here? And have you ever thought about that before? And so that screening tool really allows me to open the door to conversations of what might really be at the center of the concern for the child. So I wanted to talk about the suicide for just a second because I've read a very interesting article in one of the publications that I received, and it talked about the amount of suicide prior to the pandemic and during the pandemic. And this is still an evolving item. But interestingly, and I'm going to read from the article, it says that, and this was COVID-19 and youth suicide. The question was, do the numbers match the headlines? Because there's been a lot of headlines out there about, suicide on the rise. But the interesting point that I'll read from here, it says that despite the common perception shared by both healthcare professionals and the public, there's actually not evidence at this point that the COVID-19 pandemic has led to a broad spike in youth suicide deaths or attempts. And this was quoted from a recent journal in pediatrics that compared suicide screening results on youths presenting to the emergency departments for any reason in 2020 to the same month in 2019. Now, this doesn't say that we don't have a serious problem on our hands, because suicide is the number 2 cause of death for young children and adolescents. So it's incredibly serious. Over time, it has come up on the rise. But with regards to the pandemic, it has not shown to have increased. And I think that is because we are more apt to talk about mental illness now, which is really good for our society and for our children. It's no longer a stigma for individuals to feel that they have this disease that they don't want to confront. And when we talk to children, I usually tell them, I'm your doctor, and I'm here to take care of your physical needs. But in order for you to be 100% healthy, I have to also make sure that you're healthy in your mind. And sometimes when you're not healthy in your mind, it can affect you physically, which will then manifest into the eye twitching or the sleepless nights or the chronic belly pain, constipation, diarrhea, all of those things. It's amazing how the body will kind of compartmentalize certain things if you're not in the right mind, so to speak. So I really wanted to talk about that headline to open the door to deeper conversations about what we can do and what some of the things that we are noticing right now. Again, as I said before, it's important that you bring these concerns to your healthcare provider. One of the other articles that came out recently in one of my I don't know if I can do this, but this is one of my favorite journals, Contemporary Pediatrics. But we get a lot of information about mental health. In fact, there's now a whole mental health section here. But it talks about pandemic pediatric tips for mental health. And when I read this, I thought it was so simple and easy for anyone to be able to try to practice just a few of these things every day. So I wanted to go over those with you. The first thing that you can do when you are talking to your child or your student or as a teacher to a parent with regards to mental health is these 10 things which we term in pediatrics the pillars of well-being. We try to hit on these things in addition to the other things that we talk about when we're concerned about some type of a mental health concern. So the first thing is validation. You have to tell the patient or the parent, I understand what you're feeling, and it's a true feeling. And certainly during this pandemic, when you have things that are circumstances that are new, events that are unpredictable, feeling threatened for change, or having to surrender your privacy or not be able to do some of the things that you normally would have done, all of those things can lead to feelings of anxiety and that you are out of control. So you first have to validate it. The second item is to keep a routine. And I know that that's been really difficult for us, especially with a lot of schools in transition from in-person learning to virtual learning. But when we speak of routine, we try to say keep a few things stable in the house, such as a breakfast, a lunch, or a dinner time. Keep sleep, waking up, going to bed very consistent, even on the weekends. Have a routine time that the children take their showers or their bathing routine. So that way there is at least some consistency that they can always count on. Children really thrive on consistency and routine. I say that during all of my visits, even when they're young. The next item is sleep. And I really, really focus a lot on sleep hygiene in my office. And a lot of teenagers really hate it when I say you should not have a TV in your bedroom. It should be out. There's more and more research that's coming out that talks about how sleep hygiene is so critical for not just growth and development, but for mental health and well-being. So keeping a consistent bedtime and wake time every day is critical. And not having a lot of screen time just prior to bed, at least an hour before bed, is very important because that light that comes through on your iPad or your phone or the laptop that's in the background can disturb your deep sleep. And that kind of moves into the next item of screen time. A lot of children now have, unfortunately had to do virtual learning and they're on a screen all day long. And it's really difficult. I've seen a lot of children come in that are asking to go to the eye doctor because they just feel like their eyes are stressed and strained. And of course, I'll make sure that we check their vision and we send them to get screened. But limiting the amount of screen time to no more than 1 hour per day, which includes any time that they want to play video games or watch YouTube videos. Or my little one loves CoComelon. So if any of those things sound familiar to you guys, you really have to limit that. And that's, of course, outside of what they're doing for their schoolwork. And I have to commend our teachers and staffs with Norfolk Public Schools because when we first started the virtual learning, we had this grandiose idea that children would be on for all of these hours and we would be able to take care of it. And we quickly learned that children, their attention span was dwindling every single day, and it was really affecting them. So we moved to the asynchronous Wednesdays. Many teachers have cut back the time that they spend on the screen. They do a lot of what they call brain breaks. And I think that it just goes to show you how important the feedback is that we have received from parents. We've received the feedback, we've listened, and we've taken action. And that is just to help, because we understand that it's been just as difficult on the parents' end as it has been for teachers and the ones who are trying to come up with the with what we're trying to do here to keep our students engaged and learning. I see Miss Newsom has made a comment. Coco Melon, yes, 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 yes. So let's talk about movement. The common joke that we have in our practices, and it's not really a joke per se, but everybody has put on a little extra during COVID-19. They call it the COVID-19 pounds. And I have seen it in the children that I've seen. Their BMIs have gone up over time, and it's really been a direct correlation to not getting out and exercising as much, because we've been much more secluded. Children who have been able to participate in sports have not been able to do so. So 60 minutes of continuous exercise every day is what is recommended. And that's hard to do for some families because their home environment or their neighborhood may not be conducive to this. And so I'm very sensitive to that when I talk to families about this. I ask them, are you able to go out and walk around your neighborhood? Is there a playground nearby? Do you feel safe? Would you mind joining up to go to maybe a workout class once it is safe to do so? A lot of families have found ways to watch YouTube videos to do exercise within their house. And I never start off with saying you need to have 60 minutes every day. I always try to encourage parents to slowly work up to that point. So I'll say try 30 minutes every other day, and then bump it up to 35 minutes and get yourself to a goal that within 3 months, you're exercising 30 minutes every day. And occasionally you're going to forget to do that, or there's going to be something that comes up. But what exercise does is it releases natural endorphins, things that make you feel happy, make you feel satisfied. It encourages you to drink water. It makes your mind mentally ready to start the day. And so exercise is critical. And again, all of these things that I've talked about, you don't need a prescription for. There's no fancy equipment that you need. These are all things that we can do every day that are very simple. Next, you have the pursuit or mastery of achievement. It's recommended that, during the pandemic, that a family comes together to try to learn a new task, perhaps play chess, perhaps paint a room, do board games. I know at my house, we started playing Monopoly, and my kids really enjoyed taking turns being the banker. So I was sneaking in some math during that time, but it was a great opportunity for us to come together as a family and partition out some time so that we could all kind of focus together and give time to one another. Acts of kindness, I really like this because it's good for the soul to do for others. And what this talks about is trying to do something or uh, show an act of kindness to somebody else, to give yourself fulfillment. So that could be anything. That could be helping mom or dad with the dishes one night. That could be writing a nice note to your teacher. That could be leaving a sticky note on your child's computer that says, "I hope you have a great day today." Recognizing the little things like you clean up your room, or "I'm really glad you didn't leave any clothes on the floor." So simple things like that. We call it watering the roses and ignoring the weeds in pediatrics. And those simple acts of kindness can go a long way. Mindfulness is another very important item that has really taken off within the last year or so. And that is a combination of things. And you can Google mindfulness activities. Most of the ones that I recommend to my patients are deep breathing exercises, but yoga plays a lot into this. But what that does is it allows the child, the parent, the teacher, whoever it might be that needs to do this, to kind of disconnect and focus on their inner emotions. It takes practice, and you can't just tell yourself, okay, I'm going to enter my Zen world, in 5 minutes after I count down from 30. But, but after you practice over time, you really start to push out distractions from around you and focus on your body, on your breathing, and you really start to become sensitive to different feelings that you have. And mindfulness has been incredibly helpful for patients who have anxiety or depression. And we're recommending that as a technique for them. There's several apps too that you can download that talks to that you can do in order to practice mindfulness techniques. So the last two are pretty simple: socialize and find joy. Socialize in a socially distant, appropriate way with your mask on and do it outside. And obviously, if you're having symptoms of fever, cough, or runny nose, you won't be doing this. But even if you try to do a group Zoom meeting with family members or with grandma, that counts. And it's important to try to keep those bonds together, because for children, it's been really hard. They haven't been able to get together with their friends. And I've seen so many 2 and 3-year-olds who have come during the pandemic, and the parents will tell me, I take them to the playground and they just run away from the other children. And I said, well, they're gonna get over it, but they've really have not had the opportunity to be around other children at this time because of what we have faced together as a society. But doing that is going to be good for children, even if you can't do it in person, to try to do it through Zoom. And then finding joy. Finding joy is something that we haven't done at my house, but we're going to start doing it. And that is to pick 3 things that went positive for the day. And that, again, is trying to find the good that happens in a world that, as soon as you turn the TV on, it's just one sad or unfortunate story after another. And there are so many ways that you can find joy in the day. And I challenge each and every one of you, when you're sitting down with your families or your loved ones, or even if you're in a meeting with your staff, what are 3 things that went well today? Or what are 3 things that you're appreciative of? And that kind of allows you to recenter and focus on your purpose and finding your why. And that's what I usually end with when I'm talking to the children and teenagers that I see in my office is, you have to find your why. You are loved. You are cared for. We all want you to succeed. And at the end of the day, your mental health is just as important as your physical health. And so, Carlos, I'm really appreciative that you've allowed me to just kind of talk about these things, because our school system, now more than ever, we're realizing how integrated everything is when it comes to children in school. And those who at least are in public school, the resources that we have had to put behind them so that they can be cared for and succeed academically have just become overwhelming. And I think teachers feel that, I think parents feel that. But at the same time, if we want them to be successful, these are the things that they need. So we have to provide for their social and emotional well-being. And with that, I'm welcome to answer any questions as we go through, but I also wanted to allow it to transition to our budget, which, you've always heard me say, we need to focus on education, education, education. But at the same time, what we're seeing in our budget is we're having to incorporate more things that will help children from a social and emotional perspective. And I have to really give our superintendent kudos for making sure that these items are cared for in the budget. And she's formed partnerships with entities that can help with this as well.
Definitely. I'm seeing whether or not, I think we've got a question that might be coming in. So I was just stating they don't watch TV for that very reason. But we're what you see right now, and thank you, Dr. Gabriel. I mean, I learned a whole lot. And, for those who know, I don't have children. I have 30,000 kids, but I have a niece and 2 nephews. And so I try to be the greatest uncle that I can possibly be. And so even understanding these various things, I met with my niece earlier today. and she wasn't in a good mood. And and she's looking forward to being able to go to school, and be able to have some sense of interaction. But kids are going through a whole lot, and so I appreciate you definitely sharing that information there. But what you're looking at right now is our proposed budget, and I have to ditto um, uh, with Dr. Gabriel in regards to what our superintendent has presented to us. We had a work session on Wednesday, and really has been working within a year. And matter of fact, this past Wednesday was her 1 year anniversary as our full time superintendent. And we've set out goals as a board. And again, and I just stress here, again, Dr. Gabriel and myself are speaking as individual members of the board and not for the board as a whole. But our goals that we have agreed on is to improve student academic achievement and outcomes, ensure safe, caring, and healthy learning environments, and strengthen family and community engagement. And so in that spirit, Dr. Birdsong then went on to put forth these priorities: compensation, additional resources for schools, students, and that's to tackle learning loss, social emotional well-being of students, technology infrastructure and instructional supports, safety and security, and lastly, building maintenance and repairs. And so we'll kind of highlight those a little bit more. And definitely, and just to kind of let you know, at the end of this, we want to hear from you. And so we have a poll that you all will be able to take part in. You can do that on your web browser, or you can do it directly from your phone, and you can text in to let us know whether or not you're extremely supportive of what the budget has been presented to us, somewhat, you're neutral, not undecided, you're somewhat dissatisfied, or extremely dissatisfied. But we like to hear from you, and like for you. And even if you're watching the replay of this, you can still take part in that survey so that we can have that actual information as we come back on this coming Wednesday to talk about that. So, all right, you want to take the next one, Dr.
Sure. And so what you see here before you is our budget, and the most portion, what you see here. Okay, let me take a step back here. This is how we are funded. So for Norfolk Public Schools, we get the majority of our funding from the state. And then the next big pot of money comes from the city. And then a very small part of money comes from the federal government, and then other items such as grants. But the state funding comes to us in the form of the SOQs, the standards of quality. And that is based upon our average daily membership for the number of students that we have in our division. Unfortunately, over the years, we have seen a decrease in our enrollment. Birth rates have been going down. There's a variety of reasons to account for that. But our state funding is where the most of our funding comes from for the operating budget.
Definitely. And Dr. Gabriel, and if I'll add, we're very appreciative of Senator Linwood Lewis, who this year we got the JLARC study through. And the JLARC study essentially is the state taking a look at how they fund certain things. And so it's been almost 20 years, a little over 20 years since the last time the Commonwealth of Virginia has taken a true look at what the cost of education is in order to educate our schools, to fund our buildings, the operations, all of these things. And so we're finally, Norfolk took that lead. I think it was our third try. We finally got it through. And so now we just have to ensure that there's some funding behind that study there. But that will finally give us a true picture of what it costs to truly educate our kids and all of our students in the Commonwealth.
Right. And I'll say this, that as board members, we reach out to our legislative delegates, whether they're the senators or the delegates, and we tell them what our needs are. And we go up to Richmond. We haven't done it this year, but we will go up year after year, and we will advocate for what we need here for Norfolk.
We had Zoom meetings this year.
I know we had the Zoom meeting this year. That's right. But normally, we're up at Richmond, and we're sitting down and meeting with them. And you know what? We're inviting them to our schools as well, so they can see firsthand how this funding directly impacts the schools that they are in.
Definitely. And so the next item gets really into how we're breaking down that particular funding and utilizing it here as far as our expenditures. So you see there's non-discretionary costs. That's about $23.9 million. Salaries, the people in the building, the people it takes to operate the school division, of course, is the largest expense that we have, and that's 210, almost $208 million. And then we have discretionary costs at about 26 a million, and then employee benefits. Now, and that's one of the things that when I started in corporate. I started working with a bank. And so one of the things that I had to do, I remember, was being able to show the true cost of benefit back to an employee. It's not even it's just the salary, but it's also those fringe benefits, those things that save dollars that are not coming out of your pocket. And so one of the things I have to give credit to Norfolk Public Schools, almost 70% of our employees' health benefits, and we work in a consortium with the city of Norfolk, is paid by the school division. And so that's dollars that go directly back into the pockets of our employees at every level. And so that's where you see that $88.2 million, because it is a benefit, and it's an attractive benefit to be able to maintain highly qualified staff and teachers.
Right, right. And if you were to just look at this pie in front of us right here, you'll see that 85% of our expenditure is on the human person entity that is teaching the children. That's where most of the dollars are consumed. It's in the employee benefits and in their salaries, almost 85% of it. So there's only but so much that we have in order to do all the other things.
Definitely. And so we'll kind of talk about some of these other things that are critical, but there are some other mechanisms that we have in place that we'll be applying for. I guess you can say some of the silver lining in this pandemic. And so that's the coronavirus grants. And so a lot of people have heard about, whether or not you're getting a stimulus check and so forth. But in those packages, there are CARES packages that funding is being allocated to school divisions across the United States to be able to help us create environments that's safe in order for our students to return, our employees, our teachers to return back. And what you hear us use the word all the time, mitigation strategies. This is the PPE, the hand sanitizer, making sure that we have shields and gloves and all these different things. This is what this helps. And so for those who may have been watching the meeting, the work session that we had on Wednesday, we had about $50.5 million that we're applying, and that'll go in on April 1st. And that will apply to a lot of different things, including some of the summer learning that we have, but also to continue our mitigation strategies and providing PPE inside of our schools. But this latest that you all may have heard, the President Biden made a speech this weekend about the $1.9 trillion CARES Act that he has that's coming through. So now it's passed the first version, it's passed the House, it's gone to the Senate now. The Senate has made a modification in taking out the minimum wage, so it's got to go back to the House for their final passage. And once that occurs, Norfolk Public Schools stands right now to receive about almost $100+ million, which is critical. That's a big shot of revenue that will be able to come in to help with some critical things. And I know where a lot of that we can see, and that's definitely with some of our aging buildings to be able to make those more safe, environmentally friendly locations.
Mm-hmm. We also talked about providing stipends to teachers and to bus drivers, cafeteria workers, and other really critical individuals who are essential in making education work for all students and keeping everybody safe. So I'm very appreciative of our federal counterparts that have really fought hard to get as many dollars back into the public schools for this very reason.
Definitely. And so I'm going to bring up the next piece here for you. So one of the things is capital improvement. And so you see operations, but then we have a CIP budget, and that's a capital improvement budget. And so the school division has been operating for the last couple of years of about $3 million+. Last year, we got a little bit more. And that's to maintain almost 49 some odd facilities throughout the school division, which we all know that, roughly half of our schools are at least 55+ years old. And so they're aging. And so it costs. It costs to do many different things. And so we have a CIP budget. And I know that Dr. Gabriel, you're now serving on the facilities committee. So you want to kind of take it from there?
Sure. There are so many projects that we have lined up to do for our schools, but the most important projects are our roofs, windows, and doors, because that's where water can come in. It's a safety item, and so we need to make sure that all of these items are working and in excellent condition. We also have many air conditioning systems and the parts that go with the air conditioning, such as the chillers and whatnot, that need to work flawlessly in order for ventilation to occur properly. So what you see before you is the list of proposed projects for the 2022 year, which totals out to $17 million. $1 million of that is going to go to bus replacements. And just for everyone to know, one bus usually costs about $100,000.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to keep our buses in a constant state of replenishment because of the aging process. And so we always usually try to earmark about a $1 million set aside for 10 buses. And then everything else thereafter, what you see is roofs and doors. I'll point out, Carlos, you have been instrumental in making sure that Booker T. Washington has gotten a feasibility study. We've had many different board meetings that centered around equity and making sure that the programs, the high school programs, are adequately I guess the curriculum is there, the student interest is there, um,
Yeah, that the
everything
facility itself is matching to
is
support the academic
exactly,
program that's there.
exactly. So, and then educational planning down there for those of you who may or may not have been following along, but we do have a lot of buildings. We do have declining enrollment. Educational planning with the entity Cooperative Strategies is helping us to determine what schools may be able to be consolidated or program change in order for us to maximize the building space that we have with the student population that we have. And that is very important for when we have our discussions with the city, because we know that we need um, many new elementary schools. We know that Maury High School needs to be cared for, whether it's replaced or renovated. I'm not going to get into that discussion today, but we also have to show that with the buildings that we have right now, that we are good stewards of what we have. And so
Definitely.
that's where our educational planning comes in.
Definitely. Dr. Gabriel, I'm going to pause for a second. We've got a couple questions and comments that are coming in, and so I want to
Okay.
kind of address some of those. So I've got Linda.
And let's see.
Linda Phoenix says this pandemic has shown how critical teachers are in maintaining kids' health and well-being. And I have to agree. Just as much as our parents, when they send their children outside of their home into our buildings, it is going to be critical for our teachers and staff members to really kind of help to shepherd those students, particularly our younger ones, to ensure that they're maintaining the social distance in 6 feet. I've been in a lot of different schools, just like you have, Dr. Gabriel, and we've seen the directional signs. And all the elementary schools typically have some type of circle or paw or something that looks like their mascot to remind their students. And it's going to take some time to kind of get used to those different things there, but definitely. And as Dr. Gabriel has mentioned, in this next round of funding that we're putting this application in on the 1st, there are stipends, there are funds that are in place, and I know that that's another question that Kim Dupree Johnson asked was, is this classified included in the stipend? Yes. And also I want to highlight, Dr. Gabriel, that we are given a pay raise this year. That
Yes.
pay raise is in the budget, and that's 5.1%. Increase. I think Virginia Beach did a 5%. And so we've got an additional 0.1% in there. But we're working extremely hard in our budgets to ensure that we're competitive. We are an employer. And we're competing for teachers. We're competing for staff. We're competing for, to create a culture and an environment that people want to work here as they're doing that day-to-day job in educating our children, our young scholars. So I just want to highlight 5.1% pay increase across the board. And it's based on years and experience and time. And then also that we do have stipends that are in the CARES Act funding that will not only go to teachers, but there's other classified all the way across the board there.
Right, right. And, Dr. Birdsong had to approach this very carefully because while there is a tremendous shortage for teachers in general, she had to figure out a way in order to, make Norfolk Public Schools competitive. And I was shocked to hear that we were 7 of 7 with regards to the starting teacher salary. And so she had to first, address that issue. But then I believe that it comes back to, her history as being a teacher, her history as being an assistant principal and a principal, to make sure that we're still making progress on our step compression. And for
Right.
those of you who don't understand the step compression, is every year that you've been in the division, you get a certain number of elevation with regards to your pay, because of the years of service that you've had in the division. And many years ago, when we had really, really harsh times with regards to school
The
funding and
recession.
cuts, the
Yeah.
recession, exactly, that compression just stopped altogether. It stopped for our teachers, and it really stopped for our principals and assistant principals. And so this budget does include a step increase for staff members. And I know it is not the fix that we all want, but it is a step in the right direction. Truly, if we were to go back and decompress all of the compression, we're talking $30+ million in addition to what we have every year. And so this is a step that we have taken, and it will help. It won't solve it 100%, but it will help.
Definitely. And just in the essence of time, you'll be able to see the entire capital improvement plan. We'll be posting this presentation as well as you can find it on the NPS page. But this right in the next screen here is showing you all of the funds. This is showing the general operating, the new school nutrition fund, which is kind of separate, in the respect, but that's about 20 million some odd dollars there. We have grants. A lot of times it's come up, people say, why aren't you applying for grants? There's money out there. Well, we are. They're showing you we've got about $36 million worth of that. The CARES Act funding, this is showing fiscal year 2021, 2022, and if there's been any change. And then also our capital improvement. Those are all those infrastructure things that we're talking about in our actual buildings. And then we have a textbook fund. This is for purchasing new books and so forth there. So that's what that total number looks like, and the potential of revenue. Now, I say potential because we have a joint meeting with council on Tuesday, which will be our first one of this term year. And that'll be an opportunity for us to talk. But for individuals who may be watching who don't understand, the school division does not fund. We set a budget and we send that over to City Council, and City Council, as our partners in education, will determine it based on the tax revenue. And I know that there was a story that came out today in the newspaper that talked about the city having to continue to close down some recreation centers and so forth because of potential revenue shortfalls. But that's where we get our main funding from the local, and that's through them. And even our state funding and so forth goes through the city to the school division. So I just want people to understand that. So it's critical not only to show up to the school division for us when we have budget hearings, but also to show up to this to the city council. I've heard it year over year, year after year, where people didn't really come out to advocate and that education is important. And so for those who are watching this, whether it's now or you're watching the replay, I encourage you to reach out to your members of council. I encourage you to go to the public hearings that City Council will have. We have to submit our budget by April 1st. And to really advocate for full funding of the school division's budget, if that's what you so choose, and you feel that that's the proper investment that we need to make in our city. I don't know if you got anything else to say about that.
No, ditto.
So that's the budget we've got there. So next steps, we just kind of talked about this. April 1st is going to be that's the statutory deadline that we have to submit the budget. The board is having a special call meeting on Wednesday. I'll be we're supposed to talk about some more with the budget and so forth. But to be perfectly honest, the superintendent has sent to us a budget. In my opinion, I think that it's a solid budget, and I probably will be voting for it. To send it over to council. What kind of happens once we send it to council, council will make the determination as far as what they're going to fund, whether they'll fully fund it, if there's any deductions and so forth. And if they don't fully fund it, then we have to come back to the table and identify areas where we have to make cuts in order to bring forth a balanced budget. And so once that happens, we have to get all that done. And because there's a deadline in May that we have to get that forth. So just kind of so people have an understanding as to how that works. We've got it laid out there for you there.
Right.
So yeah. So you've got to let me go back. So if you're watching this, and if you're on right now, feel free to it's moving too fast for me here. How do you feel about the superintendent's proposed 2022 budget? You can text the code. You can choose one of those codes that are listed there. So if you're extremely satisfied, you would use code 28446 and you would text it to number 37607. And I'll leave that up there. If you're on a web, if you're on a computer and you want to go to the web address, you can go to pollev.com, Carlos Clanton without N, and put 407 in, and then you can use, you can actually vote that way. And once we finish by the end of this evening, we'll go ahead and kind of see what individuals are saying and so forth, and we'll kind of look at that there. But I'll leave that for a little bit. But so, budget is happening. I know we've talked about the, about the well-being in the mind and so forth there. And for those who are just joining here, just like, Dr. Gabriel and myself have had several conversations. The first, we wanted to engage in the community. And that's when we started doing the whole back to school during COVID-19. And we really appreciate you all sharing your thoughts and opinions. And it's just the way it's been hard because we, both Dr. Gabriel and myself are very sociable people and we like to be out there with the people. And of course, with this pandemic, it has really made it a very challenging time to be able to do that. And so we felt like this is a way that we can engage and get out to the community. And so we've decided just to continue on. And so we're going to continue to do this right now, at least once a month. We're looking for great topics and things that you all like to share. And we're going to be bringing on other guests with us. And we also want to thank our other colleague, Lauren Campson. All three of us can't be on. If we could and it'd be legal, we would do it. But we'd have to announce it as a meeting every time. So, but just how we were able to do Read Across America. I appreciate you all being able to support with that this week. And Dr. Gabriel literally read her book and then went to the ER.
Yes. Yes, exactly. It's amazing how we've been able to try to find a way to still reach out to individuals even during a time such as this. So, Carlos, this is your brainchild right here, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. For me, I'm very concerned about going even to in-person meetings because I am with COVID positive patients all the time, and so I would never want to inadvertently, bring something to anybody else. But it's important for us to still engage. And so if you are watching right now, or if you're watching at a replay and you would like to have us at a Civic League meeting, participate via Zoom or in any other type of forum, let us know because we want to make sure that we're accessible. We don't mind hard questions. We'll answer them as best as we can with the facts that we have, and we will bring your concerns back to the superintendent. One of the things that we just had a major discussion about was when teachers do return, can they have the option of having Wednesday to do to either work from home or work in the building? And again, this was feedback that was received. The superintendent received it from, her chain of command via, if it was the principals, the executive directors, your emails to all school board members, which we appropriately send on to her. And she made the decision that, yes, our teachers work very, very hard. And if it is important for them to be able to have that option, then so be it. And I have to give her a lot of credit for making sure that she's listening to her staff to try to make it as best as possible for them, because she really understands how difficult and challenging it has been. And our teachers really are the backbone here.
Definitely. And I also have to say that another piece of that, we, of course, the asynchronous Wednesdays, being able to do that from home. But also we heard a lot. We heard a lot from our teachers who have children who are school age as well, and some who are younger. And so I was very pleased to hear, in addition to that announcement about the asynchronous Wednesdays, about also identifying 900 slots in Norfolk Public Schools where our staff can bring children and to have them attend Norfolk Public Schools and not have to worry about that challenge of childcare. And that's, that's listening and being innovative. And trying to find ways that we can ensure individuals aren't having barriers to getting back and being able to do their jobs. And that's to ensure that we're educating our kids and being there for our children.
That's right. And we've talked a lot about teachers, but I also have to commend our parents, because our parents have really, really stepped up to the plate, and the challenges that they have had to face with juggling work and home environment and many children on virtual school has just been amazing. And And I know that it's been difficult for them. I hear stories all the time of either success or downright catastrophe that has happened. And I will say this: children are resilient.
Yep.
We will overcome this. There is a high determination to make sure that every child is successful, that we reach them no matter what the losses were that they've experienced this year. But if we don't get through this together safely, we won't be able to do that. And so that's why you have definitely heard, at least from Carlos, and myself, and from others, why safety is just so important. We know that we can rebuild after this, and it will take time. Thankfully, we have some dollars coming our way through the CARES funds to help fill in the gaps. But to our parents who have really, really burdened a great amount with the teaching, becoming teachers themselves, we say thank you to you. And we know that the job has been very difficult. And I know you're excited to get your kids even in school for 2 days a week. And hopefully by September, it will be more. That is our hope.
And so, just kind of dovetailing, and I'll come back to the question that we had there from Ms. Phoenix. But our summer enrichment and our learning loss, that was the second piece that was presented to us after we got the budget. As a part of that $50.5 million that we're applying with the federal government for CARES Act funds, we're going to be able this year to offer summer school, summer enrichment at no cost to any of our children. The things that we kind of see as some barriers and challenges is that we've got to find bus drivers. We've got to, have those critical individuals that are in place. And so Norfolk Public Schools is having an in-person hiring event that's coming up. So if you're watching this, I'll make sure I put the information in the comment section. We need you. If you're a college student and you want to work on getting your CDL, I think it's a great opportunity to be able to be a bus driver and to help get our students in being able to do something great, as well as while you're getting your education as well. And I just want to address Ms. Phoenix here is that, yes, we do only have 2 HVAC full-time people in the division, but anytime that we have a major job, plumbing, I tell you, if you see the Lindsay brothers or any other, we will contract out to bring additional resources in there if it's a large job that our folks can't get to. So I just want to address that yes, we do have a certain finite number of staff that are in the division. However, for larger things, we do have people that we have we have contracts with that they can come in and be able to support what we're already doing in the division.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so I'm just kind of got it. Great. And so I know it's like 8:24 now. I know we've covered a whole lot. Go ahead, definitely.
Can I highlight a couple of other things that I thought were really, really important in the budget?
Yes.
So Dr. Birdsong is going to continue with funding for the psychologist internship program, which will help to grow our own psychologist. And the psychologists are what help to do testing for students who might need IEPs or 504 plans. And so we're trying to grow our own psychologists within Norfolk Public Schools, because with many of these positions, they're very hard to find. So even if we opened up slots for reading and math specialists, we're competing with other school divisions at the same time. And so we have funded, or what she has chosen to fund is to grow your own programs. And many teachers see that as a way to grow themselves and have the ability to elevate and do other learning opportunities. She is also going to hire, I believe it was 5 individuals for behavioral specialists. She is also going to increase the funding for our English language learners to add more positions to that area. She is going to continue to support a literacy position for both elementary school and for middle school. So, what we see here is a lot of attention to the persons who are in the building. Yep. And providing the direct instruction to the children, which I really like. And with her ability to kind of see where the gaps are in our school division, I find that very important because it's a very targeted and focused budget. Her word was catalyze. It's going to catalyze us out of this pandemic with the gaps that we've seen, and hopefully get us on track to where we are not just meeting the standards, but we are exceeding the standards. And that is for every child, every day, no matter what. And we're very sincere about that.
Definitely. And so the again, like we would just say, kind of wrapping it up here and kind of bringing it full circle, is that we are in the middle of budget process. Definitely, if the budget is available, you can see that online. You can go to board docs. So if you go to npsk12.com and then look at who we are, school board, you can find that information there and see the presentation. Again, we have a survey here, but of course, our emails are available as well. We definitely encourage you to reach out to us. We do read emails, and I still give major kudos to Dr. Gabriel because she's a mom, doctor, and she's reading all these emails and definitely getting back to individuals and sharing, and responding. So we appreciate you. And we appreciate each and every one of you all for allowing us to even have this opportunity to serve you and to be representatives of our community values and our community voices. And we hope to resemble that in our actions, that everything may not happen right then and there, but we are listening and we are definitely pushing to find a collective voice as much as possible on the board and to help move our school division forward. Dr. Gabriel and myself were talking a little bit earlier. We're proud products of this school division. I think we're the only two who have graduated from Norfolk Public Schools who serve on the board. And so we know how great of a school division this is. She has children that are in Norfolk Public Schools. I've got a niece and nephew that are in Norfolk Public Schools. And so we're deeply committed to seeing the very best and having the very best and doing what's best for everybody within the limited resources that we have and trying to bring it all full circle. So I just appreciate you all taking the time, and for those who are watching here, for sharing. Again, drop in the comment section if you have, and I have been placing all the resources that Dr. Gabriel had provided. So they're in the comment section as well, and I hope you all enjoy those. So any final thoughts there, Dr. Gabriel?
Final thought is, please come out and let us know your thoughts on our budget. Come out to the city budget hearing to show them how important education is for you, what a difference it has made in your life, especially in the context of the pandemic. Your voice on how you view education is going to be critical. Our city counterparts have been very helpful. They understand the need that we have in our school division. They have increased the funding year after year to help our school division, and I can't leave without saying that we are very appreciative for them.
Very, very appreciative.
But they need to hear from you. They need to understand how important and valuable a high quality education is here in Norfolk, and how important it is for them to continue to fund it and to prioritize it.
Exactly. So definitely we appreciate it. I think we've got one last comment that may have popped in here. Great. We thank you all for sharing with us. We look forward to coming back next month. We'll have another lineup. We'll be in the middle of budget. But again, this week coming up here, we've got a joint council meeting with City Council and School Board at 4 o'clock on Tuesday. And there's a special call meeting of the board at 6 o'clock on Wednesday. So again, we're here. Share with us. We appreciate you all, and y'all have a great rest of your Sunday. Bye.